Of course. Oh my God, so good, Beth said. She devoured it in 2 bites, and a look of sublime bliss crossed her face. Lindsey took a napkin and put another sandwich and a tartlet in it. Then she handed it to Beth and said, "To tide you over during story time." "You're a goddess. Have I told you that lately?" Beth asked. "Yes, when I approved your summer reading program budget last month," Lindsey said. "But for the record, it never gets old." Beth grinned. The distinct sound of a toddler giggling emanated from the main library, drawing her attention, and she said, "I hear my crowd arriving. Gotta bounce. See you at crafternoon." "Break a burger, or would that be a bun?" Lindsey called after her. Beth stuck an arm out of her costume and bent it as if to make a muscle, while cradling her food in her other hand. Lindsey watched as Beth waddled across the library to the storytime room. Her burger bun swung like a pendulum as she tipped from side to side while walking. Beth's baby was due in 2 months, which was a scheduling challenge for her, as she juggled being the children's librarian while also acting as the campaign manager for Ms. Cole, the head of circulation at the library, who was running for mayor of Briar Creek and the Thumb Islands. It was no small task to make over the image of the woman formerly known to the library staff as the Lemon, for her puckered disposition and old-school ways, into a viable candidate for mayor, but Beth was giving it her all. Lindsey wheeled into the crafternoon room to find Paula Turner, a library clerk, already seated at the main table. She was a crafter to her core and was setting up the day's project supplies. Not being crafty by nature, a major understatement, Lindsey glanced with mixed emotions at the table, namely 1 part curiosity and 1 part dread. "Happy crafternoon," Paula greeted her. "Since it's your week to host and I know you don't love crafting, I picked a super easy Austen-inspired craft. Ribbon bookmarks." Lindsey glanced at the piles of materials in front of Paula. Velvet and lace ribbons of every conceivable color, ribbon clamps and loads of charms in silver and brass and some beads and crystals, too. She saw an old-fashioned key, a jade bead, an open book, a teardrop crystal, and an antique portrait of Jane Austen in a frame no bigger than a quarter. She immediately felt her spine relax. Lindsey picked up a length of lavender velvet and ran it through her fingers. This seemed like something even she could do. She grinned at Paula. "You might make a crafter out of me yet." "That's the goal," Paula said. Her thick braid was currently dyed a fabulous shade of turquoise, and the sleeve of tattoos that ran up her arm was colorful and book-inspired. There was no doubt that she gave the library all of its coolness. "Lindsey!" A breathless Anne-Marie Martin appeared in the doorway. "We've got a situation." Lindsey glanced at Paula and gestured to the food. "Do you mind?" "Not at all," she said. "I'll keep watch." "Thank you," Lindsey said. She hurried to the door and fell in step beside Anne-Marie, her library assistant, as she led the way back to the main library. "What's the situation?" "Mayor Henson is here," Anne-Marie said. "He and Ms. Cole are having an impromptu debate right in the middle of the library." "Oh, no," Lindsey said. They were 6 months out from the local election, and things were heating up. The town of Briar Creek had no term limits, so the incumbent, Mayor Henson, was planning to run for his 3rd term. So far, he had refused to debate Ms. Cole publicly, and could most often be found at the country club, schmoozing with his cronies. He seemed to feel that Ms. Cole was no threat to his campaign, and therefore couldn't be bothered to treat her as a real opponent. Lindsey suspected he was in for a bit of a surprise, given that the turnout for the upcoming election looked to be higher than usual, and much of the town's younger generation was actively engaged and looking for a different sort of leadership. Sadly, since Mayor Henson was technically her boss, Lindsey had to remain completely neutral whenever she was on duty at the library, even though, privately, she was 100% Team Cole.